battered but proud people of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Welcome, everyone, to Radio Free New York. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks for joining us. We're here live on WYSL from noon to 1 on this wonderful, chilly Thursday. And we're also live on our Facebook streams and Radio Free New York, Andrew C. Hollister, on Twitter, on YouTube, all those places. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. I look forward to see what you have to say about this phenomenon that I've seen going around the last couple of weeks is something I think that kind of scares people. It's having video come out of dairy farmers dumping thousands of gallons of milk and vegetable farmers dumping all this produce, and some people look at this stuff and you're like, man, what on earth is going on? And I had to do a lot of research into this, but luckily I have an expert on the show today. We are joined by Dan Stewart, who's a field crop advisor from Chautauqua County, who works closely with mostly dairy farms and all aspects of crop production and environmental planning. Dan, thank you for joining us.
Hey, glad to be here, Kevin.
Yeah, so Dan, tell us a little bit more about what you do, and let's get into what on earth is going on here.
Well, what I do, I'm a field crop consultant, so we work on all aspects of crop production with the farmers. We're a non-governmental organization. We're a farmer-owned cooperative. Basically, the farmers own our business, and we do integrated pest management. We do soil sampling, fertilizer recommendations, a lot of IPM, scouting fields. And again, mostly dairy farms that we work with, but some vegetable farms as well. And I guess probably all segments of industry in New York, especially small businesses, we've had a lot of challenges here. We had challenges before this whole COVID-19 epidemic came along, and it's just kind of exasperated things. To jump right in, so what's going on with the dumping of the milk? Most of it's a logistical challenge. It's not that the farmers are having a hard time producing the food or there's shortages of food. It's that actually the processing capacity is not there. Just speaking of milk, most dairy farms are either a member of a cooperative, which negotiates prices with a processor, so the people that are actually bottling the milk or producing the cheese or the yogurt or cottage cheese, and the processor is then selling it to the retailer or to the restaurant or along those lines. And pretty much the biggest challenge has been that the processors, they're set up to say produce a certain amount of milk in small 1-pint cartons for say the schools, or right, in big volumes for the restaurants, and they can't just switch over to retail packaging that quickly.
Right. I mean, I look at this situation and part of me thinks I understand it, but why not? Why not? Are retail plants just not able to take on the excess volume of milk, or is it a contract thing? What's happening there?
Well, so again, if you can imagine, we've gotten pretty lean, in manufacturing. There's all this just-in-time manufacturing. So, especially with a perishable item like milk or vegetables, you can't just put a lot of it in storage. So when you have excess milk, you can't be storing a lot of milk, in tanks or in the cartons. I think the average, what I've read, is 2 days from the time it leaves the farm until it's actually at the retail plant. And so again, these processors are trying to be as efficient as possible. So it isn't like they have a lot of excess capacity to just switch to, like say doubling the amount of 1 gallon containers that they're producing and sending out there. They'd have to switch a lot of stuff over. They'd have to go to the people that are manufacturing their jugs and, and basically ask them to ramp up the production and so on.
Right.
And then again, some of the processors are really highly specialized on who they're producing for. I'll just use, for example, my brother and my mom, they still have a 300-cow dairy, and their milk goes to a co-op, and the co-op markets the milk to a couple different processors. And one of the processors is down in the southern tier, and one of their primary customers was in the cruise industry. And so obviously there's not a big demand for yogurt and for cottage cheese there, and so they're just basically, they've reduced the amount that they're processing. So it doesn't make sense to keep processing and making more because it is a perishable item. So in effect, there's a certain amount of the milk there that the co-op, because the plants aren't taking it, the co-op has no place to go with it.
So
And that's where
there's
you're
nothing
seeing
they can do. They can't store it for, it's not something that's going to store for weeks or months at a time. They can't just wait until everything blows over. So the only option is to dump it in some cases.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so again, it isn't like they have all these big tanks out there where you can just go and put it and leave it there. It doesn't happen. We're really lean and efficient on a lot of our food production system. And it's the same thing with, like, right now, just this morning I heard in California, now's the prime time for the strawberry production. Like, there's a lot of strawberries that are ripening, and they're having a hard time getting those moved out.
Right. And so for similar reasons, the turnaround time from when you pick a strawberry when it's ripe to when it needs to be served when it's still good isn't that big. And there's only so much capacity for being able to push it into like frozen foods and things like that. So, what it ends up with crops rotting in some cases, which we've seen in this area too, similar to the dairy industry, right?
No, that's correct. I mean, like right now we're kind of off season, obviously.
Right.
Just another aspect of agriculture, and I'm not as familiar with it, but even, let's take Easter flowers. That I'm assuming that all these greenhouses that were growing Easter flowers, that, the demand for those went down. People weren't going to church. Some of them, were outletted through the churches and so on, or they're just not out shopping. I'm assuming that a lot of those flowers just are, probably ended up in a compost pile somewhere.
So all that investment, and it's not like you can just suddenly stop production on something like that too. This is months of planning for most of these products. So ramping up or ramping down, that's not too easy, right?
Yeah, exactly. And and that's one of the things with dairy farming too. Any farming, any agriculture right now, there's a big investment to get into it. A capital investment. Especially some of the beginning farmers. They've taken out loans to start up an operation, and when they're doing their budgeting on their business plan and so on, and as they talk to the banker, they're putting in a certain dollar amount for planning on what they're going to receive for that product. And when you end up dumping milk, you're not going to get paid for it. Now, it doesn't, like if they're dumping the milk from a single farm, so they might go and ask, say this one farm to dump the milk down the drain and put it in their manure storage. It isn't like they're just not going to get paid for that load of milk. It's going to, the cost of that milk is going to get spread out across all the members of the co-op.
Right. I mean, in situations like this, is there like insurance for that type of stuff?
Generally not. There's insurance, like if you, like again, milk needs to be stored and kept cold, and if it's allowed to heat up too much, you can have bacteria grow in it, and each load when they come to pick it up, they'll do a test on it, and if it doesn't pass the standards, they may end up dumping that milk. So in that case, it's more like an accidental type of thing. there's insurance for that, but there's not going to be insurance for them just not having a market for the milk.
Right, not for this type of situation. All right, well, this is a great discussion, and I'm learning a ton. Dan, thanks so much for being on the show. We'll be back to talk a little bit more about this issue and to get to some of your great questions I'm getting online right after this. We'll be back with Radio Free New York in just a few minutes.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
College Assistance Plus has worked with thousands of families, saving them millions of dollars. It can be stressful choosing the right college, but we're here to help. CA Plus will guide you from college visits to college graduation and through every step in between. Each student and family situation is different, and we work to accommodate those specific needs. Call today for a free family meeting, 585-582-1846, or visit collegeassistanceplus.com for more information. College is expensive. College Assistance Plus can help.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. Thanks again for everyone who's listening in, either the live show here on WYSL from noon to 1 or our rebroadcast on WENY, The Patriots down in the Southern Tier, or WACK out in Newark. Thank you guys for tuning in today, and thank you everyone who's participating online. We've had some great questions come in, and also I was talking to Bob D'Angelo, our producer, over the break, and he was telling me how his church had bought a whole bunch of lilies from Chase in their greenhouse, and then they were giving them out to first responders, and they were giving them out to essential businesses that were still open and wanted something nice to have, and giving them away to other places as well. So that's something that's being done with it, is part of it's being given away too. And, actually that reminds me, while I'm thinking of it, Dan, we're joined by Dan, who is an expert in this field. Dan, are dairy farms or co-ops giving away milk in times when they can't do it? Is there an alternative to dumping, and why might they do that or not do that?
Well, again, you can't. I mean, and the dairy marketing system is really complex, really, really hard to understand. It's kind of based on the market, but it's also the government's involved in it as well. But it is based on supply and demand, and again, over the last number of years, we've actually had a surplus of milk in this country. Mainly, I mean, part of it's because people aren't drinking as much fluid milk as they used to, but we haven't been able to market or export as much milk either, or products. So that's part of the challenge with it. But as far as like farmers giving away milk, you can't just go to a farm and, like, even if it was a smaller dairy, a farm's not allowed to sell raw milk. Again, there's a licensing system for all that as well. So it's illegal to sell raw milk right from the farm. So it isn't like you could. I assume the farm could probably give away, raw milk from the tank, but it would be really hard to do.
I mean, do you think that's a good system?
Syracuse. Pardon me?
Oh, I said, I mean, do you think that's a good system? Is that an unnecessary government barrier, or do you think that it's a worthwhile protection on selling raw milk or selling direct to consumer?
I think that's what the intent was, is that to protect consumers, because you can get bad milk. I mean, just like you can buy bad vegetables that might have E. coli or so on in it. So it is. They set up a lot of this for our own protection, but in my opinion, and again, I have more of a libertarian bent. I would rather see it that somebody makes that own discernment on whether the farm they're buying the milk from is it a clean farm? Are they handling it well? Do they feel comfortable buying it from the farm? I don't think it should be illegal. I think if you want assurances that the milk has been handled right, you want the government to be involved in it, then by all means that would be an option for you, but I also think somebody should have the option to be able to buy it from the local dairy as well.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think that, if we have a free society, you should be able to kind of weigh those risks and rewards, and being able to buy raw milk is one of them. And that's definitely a very popular issue among libertarians is we should be able to buy directly from businesses without government intervention in more situations. So, yeah, no, I'm definitely on that page there. And now we're getting a couple other questions that I wanted to bring up. So we have one from Robert who says he works for Upstate Farms. He says the biggest problem is that stores are restricting how much people can buy. So now we have to limit production, which reduces the amount of milk we take in. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I guess I can only judge by what I see out in the stores, and down in the the stores I go to down in the southern tier are generally smaller ones. I haven't had any problems. I haven't seen that, but I don't know what they're doing actually in the urban areas. I don't know if the rest of you have any experience with that at all.
I mean, I'll say I live in the city of Rochester, and I've seen a couple of stores at some points would say like limit to 1 gallon a person, or 1 gallon per person or per purchase. So if you want to stock up and buy, 2 or 3 gallons of milk, that's a problem, which, honestly is a huge issue. If you have a big family that goes to a lot of milk and you want to be able to buy that, it's not an option for you.
Yeah. And again, it was more my understanding that they're trying to ration it to a certain extent. Kevin, what have you seen as far as prices on milk? Has the price of milk gone up in the stores or not?
I haven't seen it too much, at least in the stores that I've done. But that would be an interesting response to that, right? As people start consuming more retail milk because their children aren't in schools getting the milk in that way, or people aren't consuming milk in restaurants, so they're consuming milk on the retail side, it would make sense to have prices increase in response to demand, right? But a lot of times those prices are a bit stickier in part because of government restrictions, as I understand, but I don't know a ton about that. Would it make sense for prices to go up? Should they?
Well, to me, that'd be one way of rationing it. If you really want the milk, you should be willing to pay more for it. and that keeps somebody from buying extra milk, which, again, it does, in some ways it doesn't make sense knowing that it's a perishable product to have somebody buy, 10 gallons of milk and try to put it in their refrigerator and have it go bad after, 3 weeks.
Yeah, you can't really hoard milk all that effectively, I guess, right? It's just not going to work. Because I don't even think you could put it in the freezer. It's not going to work that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it would make sense. But if you do have a big family, right? Because I see this with like bread too. I've seen some people, stores are limiting to people to buying 2 loaves of bread at a time. And again, if you have a family of 5 or 6 that eats toast and sandwiches every day, that's going to last you only a couple days, and then you have to go back to the store again to get it. I would think the same thing with milk for some families too. It's why limit it. I think the consumer knows whether they need to buy it, and I think they're only going to learn that hoarding lesson once if they have a whole bunch of milk that goes bad on their hands.
That's right. So I guess going back again, like the amount of milk that's out there. So there is a lot of milk out there, and like I said, there was a surplus, and it's based on overproduction of milk. Where dairy farmers, that it's pretty much the goal to the way you make more profit is by producing more milk at low cost, and there's an incentive for each individual farm to produce more milk, to help its own bottom line. But when each individual farm does that, it adds up to a lot more milk on the market, and because the price is based on, the supply versus demand, milk prices have been quite low. We've hit, basically for the dairy farmers we work with, well, anywhere across the United States, the milk prices have been depressed where farms could barely make any money over the last 4 or 5 years. In fact, a lot of them were operating at a loss. And they were kind of looking forward to 2019 because it kind of was getting to the point where the supply of milk and the demand was kind of balanced. So farmers were looking forward to a little bit higher price for their milk. And then when this happened, it's kind of driven it right back down. So there's a lot of farmers out there that aren't feeling really good, and this weather doesn't help at all either.
No. So, I mean, in this situation, like what had been causing kind of that mismatch in supply and demand? Is it government policy? Is it just like the way markets have been working to kind of adjust to changes in demand? What's going on with that?
Well, it's really hard. I'm not an ag economist. I'm a crop advisor, but to me, food's a little bit different. I mean, you don't ever want to have a shortage of food within a country. I mean, that's when you really get revolutions, right? So we do want it so that we have a secure food supply for everyone. We don't want it to the point where food's a scarcity and the price goes way up. Although I don't like a lot of government involvement in pricing, I think it's almost necessary, as far as food policy for this country. But, again, farmers have tried to limit their production, and basically it's hard for them to do that, to get together to say, hey, we're going to limit our production so the price of milk will go up, because that's basically collusion. It's saying, hey, we're going to quit producing as much so that we make a artificial scarcity, so then the price will go up. Well, in fact, I think Dairy Farmers of America, one of the larger co-ops, has actually sued for that, for banding together with other co-ops to do exactly that a number of years ago. So it all comes back to, farms kind of on an individual basis doing that. One thing I do know, one of the that larger cooperative, Dairy Farmers of America, their producers have been asked to reduce their production by 15%. I think starting next month, and anything, over that 85% of what their historical production was, they're going to get paid maybe 50% of what they would be getting paid for the other milk. So they're trying to put an incentive in there for farmers to quit producing as much.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And so Dan, we'll pick up this conversation when we come back. Thanks everyone for joining us here on Radio Free New York today. We are going to be back in just a few minutes. We'll talk to you soon.
more than twice the power.
WYSL.
More powerful FM 92.1, FM 95.5 West, and 1040 AM WYSL Avon Rochester.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center. Today, we're looking at below average temperatures in the lower 40s for the high. We do have a chance of rain and scattered snow showers. Then it looks like rain likely this afternoon and evening. We will see temperatures dip into the upper 30s tonight into tomorrow morning, and Friday, 45 degrees for the high with a slight chance of showers here in Rochester. By Saturday, we start off with sunshine, then rain returns Saturday night into Sunday. This is Samantha LaRocca for WYSL.
At Victor Chevrolet, we want you to know we are here for your transportation needs. Our factory-trained specialist in the Victor Service Department can expertly handle any repair. Our concierge service can arrange for pickup and delivery of your vehicle if you choose. We are here for repairs, maintenance, inspections, warranty work, and recalls. Victor Chevrolet can help no matter where you bought your car or truck. And if you need a new vehicle, Victor can sell you a car virtually on our website, victorchevrolet.com, or by appointment at our store. Call 869-6196. Trade-ins, financing, leasing. They're all available remotely and at your convenience. We're here to fully serve Chevy customers in Victor, Canandaigua, Macedon, Fairport, and throughout the Metro and Finger Lakes. Depend on Victor Chevrolet, here for you with sales or any service issue, no matter where you bought your vehicle. Give us a call at 869-6196 or visit victorchevrolet.com. You can depend on the team at Victor Chevy for all your transportation needs, now and in the future.
Do you long for a more pro-life, pro-family community? For that future to become a reality, Christians must stop talking about abortion as if it is merely an issue or unfortunate social ill. The church must begin to see abortion as a symptom of society's fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to be human. Because everyone is made in the image of God. All people, without qualification, are equally valuable, deserving of equal protection under the law. Being made in the image of God is the touchstone of human dignity and equality. At the moment of fertilization, we are each instantly and inherently invaluable because of whose we are. Jesus says, "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." What marks human value? The imprint of God upon the human mint. This Real Abortion News Update is sponsored by Compass Care. Join the pro-life community at compasscarewalk.com.
Hey, grab a pen. I'm going to give you a phone number I hope you never have to call. The number for attorney Christopher Johnson. Chris handles car and motorcycle accident cases and DWIs and serious personal injury cases. So if there's an accident or anything else, this is the number you want in your glove compartment. You ready? Here's the number, 585-415-3803. 415-3803. You'll want that handy because suddenly, at that time, you'll be getting lots of, quote, advice. With this number in hand, you know you'll have experience on your side and integrity and individual attention to your case. So forget the singing jingle phone numbers, the actors playing ex-clients, bragging about their $1 million settlements. Just remember the number for Christopher Johnson, attorney. We hope you never have to call. 585-415-3803. 415-3803. Stay safe, be healthy, drive sober. Christopher Johnson, attorney, personal injury, car or motorcycle accidents, DWI defense. Good to know.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Liberty Dental in Greece is open for your regular and emergency dental needs. We're available 24/7 and can see emergency patients the same day. We accept Medicaid and ensure the latest sterilization techniques for your safety. Call Liberty Dental today, 434-2090.
Mary Cariola Center educates and cares for individuals with complex disabilities. School and residential jobs are available with outstanding benefits and continuing education opportunities. If interested, apply now at marycariola.org/employment.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, and we are joined by Dan Stewart, who is, we're talking about some of the stuff going on in the dairy industry, but I want to give a shout out to a couple people who helped me do some research for this show. So shout out to Dave Reynolds, who provided me with a bunch of information on this too, in the background, and Garrett Kane, who helped connect me with Dan. And Garrett also had some comments in here. He says, to a large extent, a dairy cow needs to be milked to keep the animal healthy, regardless of the market. And Dennis also, is it Dennis? Yeah, oh yeah, there he is. He said, you just can't shut the cow off. Yeah, no, you can't just shut the cow off and tell the cow to stop producing milk. You got to keep milking it, right? So that's what it is. Garrett also says, Kevin. Dan passes the libertarian test.
Kevin,
so yeah, I mean,
there are ways of shutting a cow off. And basically, what a farm would normally do would be, if they wanted to reduce the number of cows, is basically you'd send it to the auction for slaughter. And unfortunately, a lot of our processing plants, our beef processing as well as our pork and our chicken, is done in large-scale operations. And I think you've seen it where they've been shutting down some of these plants because they've had COVID infections in there. So now it's to the point where they can't take those animals in because they don't have the capacity to slaughter them because they're not running their lines at all or they're a partial shift. It's like even if one of these plants go down, it might be like 5% of the slaughter capacity for the U.S. So in effect, if you send a cow to the auction, there aren't buyers there that are going to be buying these cattle for slaughter. So the price on a cull cow has really gone down as well. So you're getting rid of the cow, but you're not getting nearly as much for her as what you would have gotten 3 months ago.
Right. I mean, it is so. In New York State, would it would be difficult for kind of small processors to start up in that situation? I assume it's like a big capital expense to increase production capacity at a slaughterhouse or to start a slaughterhouse. So that's just not an option for the market to be able to adjust quickly to that situation, right?
Yeah, and same thing that kind of goes with milk. I mean, we USDA regulates slaughterhouses, and again, I don't know all the exact details on it, but it is hard to get certified, to be a butcher, to do a slaughterhouse. Now, and so some farms that would like to sell cuts of meat, basically it is illegal for farms to basically slaughter animals or have them slaughtered at a non-USDA permitted operation and sell cuts of meats to their neighbor. They basically would have to sell them as quarters. Now, the thing that's interesting is if you knew a farmer and you wanted to process that cow yourself, if you wanted to butcher it yourself, you'd come out to the farm and basically take possession of that animal and do the slaughtering yourself on it. And believe it or not,
if I knew how to do that process, I could buy that animal from a farmer directly and then slaughter it, butcher it, and then have it for consumption for myself. I just can't sell it.
Right, you can't sell it, and you could go and buy that animal, and then you could either have the farmer transport it, or you could transport it yourself to the certified, butcher shop, and they could do it for you. The problem is there's a limited number of USDA certified butcher shops to do that. The interesting thing was last week I was on a small farm. I'm talking like a 40, 50 cow dairy, and I was looking for the farmer, and I came out back, and actually there were a group of, I guess I'll call them immigrants from Bhutan that were basically slaughtering a cow, right there on the farmer's presence, right at the farmstead there. They'd come out of Buffalo and, basically were butchering it, and we're cutting it up in the quarters, and we're going to take it back home.
All right, yeah, that works. I mean, if you have the skills to do that and you know what to do, buy it direct from the farmer. I mean, that seems like a good situation to me. I know that's how I buy most of my beef is we go get a big group of friends together and we buy it, but we have to get it processed through a butcher that the farmer knows. But that's what we're able to do, and it'd be interesting to see if more people are starting to do that, as like there's some minor disruptions and maybe some major disruptions in the food supply chain in terms of processing, because that's what I understand is happening is the processing is where everything's getting bottled up right now. It's just with people getting sick or people worried about going to work, it's just slowing everything down.
Yeah, in effect.
Yeah.
One other point I wanted to point out with dairy farms, as far as cutting back on their milk production, even if they did get rid of some of the cows, they've already invested a lot of money in putting up the feed, the forage crops, the corn silage, the alfalfa, the grass, the hay over last year, and so that's sitting in storage there. And the way they get the money out of that crop that they, invested in and harvested last year is through their milk. It's not like they can take that, corn silage, and there's not a ready market for it. So, that's how the dairy farmers are trying to get their money, get some income. It's through the milk and the meat, and right now the markets are extremely depressed.
Yeah, I mean, is there any policy solution to make that better? Or are we just going to have to hunker down while the coronavirus is hitting?
Well, I think I talked to one of my farms I work with, and I guess the farms were eligible to apply for that paycheck protection plan. So, this particular guy I talked to, he had put an application in on the first round. I think he said the application came out on a Friday and he had it in on a Sunday night, and then they requested more information, and as of yet it hasn't been approved. And that money's probably already gone, as we well know. The second round, I don't know about that, but the farmers, being a small business, they did qualify for that. And from what I understand, there's going to be some money being made available for commodities, including, corn, beef, dairy, etc., in this next round here. But again, I don't think that's a sustainable thing.
Yeah, I mean, kind of related to that, is that kind of the only solution, is to have the government either guarantee prices or buy some of these products that are getting kind of caught up in pre-production.
Yeah, and that's what they did in the past when there's a surplus of milk. A lot of times the government, would go into cheese, which you can store for longer periods of time, and the government would basically buy it up and then, basically sell it or, give it away. And this was years ago. So, there used to be some programs like that. But again, it's very complicated, and you have unintended consequences of any policy you do, and unfortunately, when you get government involved, there's going to be loopholes, and somebody's going to exploit the rules for their own benefit.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm thinking. It might provide some immediate relief, but I always wonder, when you have a situation like that and you have government distorting the prices, what are the long-term market effects of providing those particular incentives when, is it worth going through the short-term market pain in these situations? Or when you have such a big crisis like this, does the government need to step in to do that? But, kind of my inclination is no, maybe the government shouldn't do that. But I understand that a lot of people are hurting, and there's a lot of demand for that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and every farm's different. I mean, there's some farms that are well established and had pretty good reserves. Even though they went through some pretty bad years here, they're in a situation where, 30, 40 years they've been in the business and paid down debt, and, hit some profitable years and have some reserves, and those guys are going to be okay. There's other ones that were in the midst of expansion or just getting started, and when you don't have any, for them it's really challenging because when you don't have any money at the end of the month to pay your creditors, everybody's hurting for sure.
Yeah, right. No, it really starts to get out of hand. And I know we're coming up on a break soon. And when we come back, I do want to talk about another topic that I know you want to talk about with the farm labor bill. So we'll get some opportunity to talk about that. But thanks again, everyone, for joining us here on Radio Free New York. We'll be back for one final segment in just a minute.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
The Rochester area franchise dealers are here to help their customers through these trying times. Service departments and collision centers are open. Vehicle sales are initially done remotely by telephone or electronic means until you're ready to visit the dealership and take delivery of your vehicle. Proper social distancing and cleaning protocols are followed at all dealerships. Please contact your preferred dealer to schedule sales or service appointments for a safe check-in, drop-off, or pickup process. Be safe and know the franchise dealers are here for you, Rochester.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
Welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for the day, and we are joined by Dan Stewart, who is educating all of us about the dairy industry and agriculture. Dan, has been so informative. I appreciate it, and thank you everyone who's listening online and out there on the radio too. Some of the questions that have been coming in have been excellent. The comments have been excellent. You guys rock. Thanks for participating in this conversation. And I do want to just apologize. I know we're getting a little bit of interference with some of the sound quality today, so I apologize for that. We try to make our sound very crisp, but sometimes these things happen. We try to fix it. But Dan, when we were talking the other day, when I was asking about coming on this show, I know there's a few other issues that you really wanted to talk about, and we wanted to get you on the show for a while, actually. But so Dan, can you tell us about what's going on with farm labor and what's happening with that? What are some of your concerns, and how do we move forward with that?
Yeah, and so amongst the other challenges that farmers are facing right now, In New York State, when basically the progressives got control of the New York State Senate and controlled basically control the legislature and then our governor, they had a really progressive agenda, and one of the agenda items they had was that they felt that farm workers were not being treated fairly, and so there had been some legislation in the past, and they moved, that they had proposed, and it was able to be blocked. And when they got control, they pushed it forward, and that's the Farm Workers Fair Practices Act, Farm Labor Fair Practices Act. And I think everyone knows that the minimum wage in New York State has gone up a lot in the last number of years. I think it's currently at $11.80 an hour. Well, in the past, New York State actually had, if you were in farm labor, the minimum wage was actually lower than the regular minimum wage, and farmers did not have to pay overtime over 40 hours. When they started passing these higher minimum wages, they basically said, all right, farm labor is going to be the same as what it is for the rest of upstate New York or New York City, depending where you are. So then their agenda they did last year is they were trying to push through that basically farm workers would be paid time and a half overtime like other industries. And it was really, and basically they're looking at 40 hours. They did get it, there was some lobbying efforts and they got that increased to 60 hours. But now farmers are having to pay, time and a half, and it's at that higher wage rate.
Well, Dan, let me jump in for a second and just ask, let me play devil's advocate. Why shouldn't you get paid time and a half for working on a farm? Well, everyone else does. So why not? Why is it different in, the farm industry?
Well, I don't, to me, I don't know whether everyone should. I don't think government should be involved in it in general. I think it's an agreement between an employer and an employee. They have a contract. They agree on it. No one's making somebody work at a place of business, and especially over the last number of years where we've had very low unemployment, and so actually, people hiring, the businesses hiring are the ones that are at a disadvantage, I would say. They don't have any leverage. So if you want to keep an employee, you've got to make conditions really good for them, and you've got to pay that wage. In fact, most of the dairy farmers that I work with, they paid well over the minimum wage. The challenge is on a lot of them, especially where they're using undocumented workers or migrant workers, is that they're also providing housing, which there's no credits for that either. So basically, and plus these workers that are up here, they want to work a lot of hours. If you were working in a factory situation, I think the management would have it so they could minimize the wages, and you can't do that in farms. And again, so going back to like the dairy farming, it is a little bit more structured, like on milking times and shifts and what the responsibilities are. So the dairy farms have been able to kind of adjust to that overtime provision. So they've been able to keep it down to, for most of them, down to 60 hours or just over it. When we start getting out in the field crops, there's times like right now, you can't be doing any work. So you have people that aren't working, maybe 30 hours a week, or you're trying to find stuff for people to do. So you have them when the big demand for, work is there. And for vegetable growers, it's even more of a challenge. There's one vegetable farmer that I work with, and they're cutting back their acreage by 50%. The reason why is they've used the H-2A program, which is a federal program, and the minimum wage on that is $14.29 an hour, and plus they have to provide free housing. So this is actually a program, you go through the government, federal government, and you get those workers in there, you have to pay them that. You have to pay them the housing.
Say $14.
Our state, though, they're going to have to pay them time and a half over that 60 hours a week. And again, when you're harvesting vegetables, you need a lot of manpower there to do that. And you go down into Pennsylvania, or if you go to Mexico or other places, they're not paying those wages. So it's really making their cost of labor, for farms in New York State. And I'll say vegetable farms, and then orchards as well. A lot of orchards use this H-2A program, and it's going to increase their labor costs significantly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like labor costs is going up a ton, and I kind of get the, like if you're in harvest season or something, you have a limited window, and so that's why you're going to be working a lot of hours at once, I'd assume. But yeah, if you're, in New York State, farms are they having trouble attracting workers, or is it easier to attract workers because they get higher wages here? Like, what's going on with that?
Well, you can't stay in business if you have to pay more. I think part of the problem with the H-2A, again, these people want to work at least 60 hours a week. When they come up here, it isn't like they're setting down roots. They're here to work and make money and send it home. Especially, you take some of the undocumented workers. They're coming up here working. They're sending money back home. They're building houses back in Mexico. They don't have any interest in being part of the community here. They just want to make as much money as possible. And again, you're in competition with other states. And if I understand this right, I think to get somebody to come from Pennsylvania, to here, you've got to make your conditions better for the workers. And I think that comes down to anything. Anybody.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's how markets and labor work. Labor is kind of a thing that gets sold just like anything else. You sell your labor to your employer, so you're going to want to go where you're able to command a good wage, where you're able to get treated well, and a lot of times the government set conditions on these where you're not able to work the way you want to be able to work, and that's what we see in New York State, where the state wants to be able to micromanage these things, which sometimes gets in the way of workers and employers being able to come to agreements that make sense for both of them, because it has to be a push and pull.
Right. And basically, what as the vegetable farmer explained to me, they were selling a lot of their, peppers down into a market in New Jersey, and he was saying the wholesaler down there, he doesn't care whether the peppers come from New York or if they come from Pennsylvania or if they come from Mexico. He's going to pay the lowest amount he can for them, so he can make a profit as well. It just gets to the point where you price yourself out of being able to produce that produce, for a profitable price, and it's really not. If you're a dairy farm or a vegetable farm, you can't pick up your land and move it to another state.
You're absolutely right on that, and that's where we are. We farmers have to be able to work with what they have. You can't just move your land. You can't just leave. You got to make conditions better here. And Dan, this has been an awesome conversation. It's been very informative to me, and everyone listening out there, I hope it's been informative to you too. So Dan, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being a guest on Radio Free New York. We'll be back with more Radio Free New York tomorrow. Talk to you then.